Welcome to the new cyber frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new cyber frontier.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Cyber Frontier. Today, we're going to be talking about all the things and above about encryption. Our guest today, if you would please, sir, introduce yourself.
I'm Larry Karisny. I'm a director of a group called Project Safety that's been around for a long while, about 20 years, in fact, and been looking at basically some of the issues that we have in cybersecurity, looking at ways to fix it, and really getting what we call working proof of concept technologies out there to shore up our existing cyber defense systems and get ready for quantum, which is really just down the road.
Yeah, so this concept of quantum, cybersecurity these days are, major impacts from our predecessors, from rogue nations, from different components outside the nation, inside the nation. We're getting hit by several, continuously hit. My background is a lot in the DoD domain, so I worked for missile defense for 5+ years. So we're constantly getting pinged, constantly getting factored into some of these things. So you were referring to, we were chatting a little bit before the recording started here, but you were referring into how these are starting to plague into our nation and how it's going to be impacting to us. So can you expand a little bit on just what the concept you got and how that's going to kind of support those factors of safeguarding as far as the posture we have as a nation?
Yeah, we're kind of getting hit two different ways. We have our existing encryption infrastructure, and it's out there now, but our adversaries are actually kind of gobbling that up right now, saying, hey, you know what? When we get a quantum computer, we'll be able to use this data, and then we'll be able to breach it later on. So there's tremendous concerns on what, I call legacy encryption, and really a stepping stone to how are we going to get to a completely different state, and how can we get to use something different that will be able to give us, foolproof security. Right now, algorithms are basically, formulas that can be breached when the quantum computer is here. In fact, it can frankly be breached by some supercomputers.
Yeah, again, what we currently have, right?
Yeah, so we really need to start looking at other things. But what's important too, and a lot of people, they forget about the today part. So we got to do something today, midterm, and what I call long term, and that's when the quantum hits. There's 3 stages to this, and I want to start basically, I guess, with the today part, and we can go from there.
Okay. For it.
So today, if I was to pinpoint the single place that I would focus on cyber defense, cybersecurity, all you got to do is look at the stats. If you look at the statistics, the front door is your biggest problem. Identification, authentication.
Yeah.
And to us, that means passwords. And it also means dual factor, multi-factor. There's ways of making it a little bit better and improving it. But that's the big fat problem. It's the front door that's wide open. And
easy to get into, right?
Well, we could all tell stories, right?
Yeah. How fast can you break into something?
I know, man. Right. And I don't like to. Let's not make it easier for them.
Yeah.
So we're faced with, what are we going to do here? So I wrote articles for lots of years, and I wrote for Government Technology Magazine. And one of the quotes I got, and this is a 10-year-old, it's 11-year-old article, that I got from Vince Cerf, okay, our father of the internet.
Yeah.
And he made a statement, and it's stuck with me ever since he said it.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
And he made a statement, and it's stuck with me ever since he said it. He said, one thing incumbent upon all of us is to introduce authentication into the fabric of, at the time we were speaking about the smart grid. And he said, we didn't do that with the internet. And that's absolutely true. The internet has an open core.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's open source philosophy.
Exactly. So how do you encrypt something like that? And how do you identify and authenticate? And that's really what I think our biggest problem is. And I don't care if it's people, I don't care if it's machines. Yeah. You really got to start where you start. So, and that's through the identification and authentication process. So what I did basically is I looked at, okay, so where's our big fat problems? And it was amazing the numbers that I got. 80% of the time, hackers come in through the front door. Authentication. That's how they get in. They actually use passwords and they get into the systems. Once they're in the systems, then they're looking for what they want to manipulate and change. And
that's usually the biggest target, right? That's what they're trying to target is trying to get a password or a phishing something to gain the knowledge to be able to unlock the door.
Right. Yep. And so here we are knowing that. And this, these studies went on for years, and we're saying, well, those percentages really aren't changing much. And we're trying to improve. We try to put in two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. But, when I look at it and things that we do, we say, well, it's kind of the definition of insanity. Okay. It didn't work. So let's do it 3 times more.
Right. Put another layer on top of it.
Exactly. And
that's really only making it more complex, isn't it?
And complexity is a problem. I know the IDS side. Yeah. So intrusion detection side. And so when I look at it, I get scared. I said, oh, wait a second. So now you're looking at everything. Right. So how did you secure that?
Yeah.
So
the whole concept behind the defense in depth, where you put more layers on top of something, so that more obstacles to knock down to get to the door. So
yeah, exactly. So let's at least take care of the front door. And there's some unique ways that I found to do this. I really focused on true random entropy. Okay. So we have random sources out there that, first of all, don't involve any human intervention. Sorry, but we kind of put stuff in there sometimes, and we probably shouldn't, but we need to be able to assure, customers and people to say, hey, we got a source here that we really can't do anything about. It's out in nature, it's out in the real world, it's out in the physical world, and it just does what it wants to do. Yeah. Well, that's a great source for encryption. What does encryption do? Basically the same thing, but it's in an algorithm-based mathematical formula. So it has a beginning and an end. So anything that has a beginning and end, you can breach. I mean, it's that simple. So if you use a computer, if you use software, it all has beginning and end. You can breach it.
Yeah, it's usually in a more of a silo. So.
Right. So, but in true random, we have sources of entropy out there as simple as, I've seen dice rolling, 200 dice in a cylinder, and it's pumping through, and it's got different colors in it. And then a very fast camera just takes shots of it and uses the entropy source of that. And that's kind of neat because, you can see it. I wouldn't go to Vegas if I couldn't pull the arm down and
Yeah.
and see everything turn. So
Yeah, I'm not that lucky either. So
yeah, me neither. But that's kind of nice to be able to see, and it actually produces a great random source.
yeah.
There's a lot of other static. The static from an old TV set. An analog static, radiation. I mean, there's a lot of random sources out there that we just have no idea what that's going to do. So all we do is kind of gather that. And say, okay, give me that random source. You have to convert. And this is where you get into, it's called, random and pseudo-random. Okay. Random is like in the physical world. It's random and there's nothing you can do. But hey, I got to use it. So I got to change this to a digital state. Yeah. So you convert it with it's called a random generator. So you actually generate that into random bits. And now you can use those bits to improve your entropy of your existing encryption. You can put it into hashes. There's different places that you can put this to actually improve what you have today, and even single use, which I can't say enough about in the encryption world. Every one of your encryption messages. It drives me crazy when I talk to people and say, okay, how do you use your encryption and how many times you reuse that key? and you just don't want to hear those answers. It's, you reused again and again and again and again. I'm sorry, you can see that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you can, that now weakens your posture.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Larry, we're going to go to a break right quick and hear from our sponsors. So we'll be right back.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Okay, welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery. I'm here with Larry. We were talking about entropy and the randomness of some of the things for this new idea that could, transpose something to make an equation for smarter encryption. So, and Larry, you were talking about the today, I guess that's the first stages of it. And there's a 3-stage factor in here up to quantum computing, correct?
That's right. And we have to start with what we have today. And the only thing that we can do today is to really shore up and increase the entropy source of encryption. Encryption is just nothing but entropy anyways. It's trying to scramble something up. So
yeah, and it was unique to see that, just like you said, the examples that you had. The interest there is like the static on the screen. That would be interesting. I think there was a movie, TV show that I saw where they were taking snapshots of a wall of lava lamps, and that was the randomness that they were using to equate the bits to translate into the efficiencies of their encryption that was non-breakable somewhere in something I was watching. So hilarious to see that's possible, that it could be something like that. So the step or the stage 2, what is, and I apologize, we're going to run out of time if we don't get to the next 2 stages here, Larry, but very unique about what you're saying. But on stage 2, what's the second stage? And how is that unique from stage 1? Well,
okay, in a stage 2, and by the way, the things you were talking about are available, and it's called entropy as a service. So
entropy as a service.
Yeah, there are people out there that right now just say, okay, here it is. We'll do the work for you. We'll scramble this up for you. We can send this to streaming. We could send it to in a protected vault, You know,
I see.
yeah, whichever way you want to use this, you can use this.
Yeah.
So we have the ability of bringing that to them. The important part, I think, that we have to, why we're redefining things, is that if you really look at how encryption works today, somebody gives you a key and it's either public key, private key, you really have nothing to do with it as an end user. And to me, that's kind of interesting because I look at it and say, well, wait a second, what am I? And the answer is kind of like nothing. My host can disconnect you anytime I want.
Yeah.
And really, I didn't give you anything that, you know, I didn't already have set for myself. So what people are doing, and here's a second stage, and this is really kind of interesting. They're looking at, okay, well, how can we start this from the device? How can we start this from the phone? How can we actually produce the entropy in the device? And, you know, complicated things are real simple. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way some people are doing that is that they're saying, okay, I can do that. I have a phone. I have a camera in my phone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a picture of you. And by the way, I can count a single photon. You know, that's actually available today, which is just mind-boggling to me. You can actually look at a single photon in a pixel.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Just how it's manageable today with the devices we have.
And manageable is a good word to use, because I looked at it and, you know, I only think the way I think is that, oh, wait a second. So I can actually manage that.
Yeah. I
can actually use that as an identifier. I can actually use that photon and run it through a random generator, and I can actually create my own entropy. Well, people are, believe it or not, doing that right now into a single chip, if you can, you know, even fathom that.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Well, even then in the 80s, we're going with 32 megs of RAM and couldn't fathom the terabyte or petabyte stages. And here we sit today with that already and then some.
Exactly. And by the way, the overhead is very low. You know, you're looking at how do you get something into an IoT?
Yeah.
You know, how much room you got? Like nothing. Okay. So you have to start, right. You have to start looking at different ways of doing this. What's interesting about this stage is that, you know, you're still using a photon and you're converting it to digital because you have to. That's the environment that you're in.
Yeah. In order to work well with other components, right?
Right.
Translate it into something everything knows. So
right. The beauty of it is that, you know what? If you want to, you can take out that digital piece and you could go photon to photon.
Yeah. So then you're iterating into the spectrum of light and the concept of optics, right?
Exactly. And optics that we have a lot of experience in. You know, right. I come from the days of putting the fiber in the ground. Okay. So I know about wave division multiplexing. I know about the stuff that this stuff does. And the beauty of photons is that a photon likes a photon. You put two single photons in a room and they find each other.
They orchestrate their own connection no matter what.
Exactly. So, you know, what a perfect environment of starting with, and you know, I'm kind of crazy on this side. I created the entropy source. I took a picture of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I did this. You know, I had this business. One day somebody's screaming at me saying, you know, I can make it look like you hacked the United States from Russia and all this kind of stuff. And they're just screaming up and down. And I said, no, just don't do it now. What do you mean? You don't know who I am. I could do this. I said, no, wait. I'm in front of an ATM machine. I just put my credit card in the ATM machine. It just took a picture of me. Okay. I got my $20. It gave me a digital footprint, and I also got my receipt. So, you know, pictures are kind of nice, and we're to the page, you know, and I like everybody else, I want my privacy.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to prove my privacy too. So I think we need to get to that level and say, no, that was really me. And there's ways of doing that. So here we are moving along from something that we can actually start from our cell phone, which is, just blows my mind.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Capability.
think about what photons are. And I had a definition here of what quantum is. And quantum is basically atomic and subatomic particles. That's what it is. Now you got to get them to kind of work together and stuff. And that's the difficulty right now. But under that definition, what's a photon? Same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, it's not only pretty much so some people looked at it and said, wait a second, light's pretty fast. We learned a whole bunch about this stuff.
Yeah.
Why don't we just make a photon land?
Oh, now you are with connections and communications.
Exactly. Not only communications, but again, remember that I went all the way to me. So I went all the way to a layer 7 identifier on the other side of, I'm the person. I'm the identifier. I'm the person who started this. I can go through, yes, as you were saying, now we can go through the network. Photons are the largest particle source that there is in the universe.
Yeah.
So we don't have a shortage of it. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Photons are used in 5G. Photons are used in satellite. Photons are used in fiber. So we now have a method of saying, oh, wait a second. Now all we got to do is connect the dots. And photons have a beautiful characteristic. They do two things at once. They have two things. They're a wave and they're static. And they have to come together.
Yeah.
Or they don't work. Well, what does encryption do? Encode, decode. Guess what? They already have in the state that a photon is in, they already have encode, decode.
That's what it sounds like. It's already set up.
It's already set up.
Yeah.
And if you time it properly, you're saying, okay, that's it. And I know that that's it. And I can confirm that that's it. So it's pretty exciting as to where we can go with this. It's already been proven that fiber optics can connect to quantum. They already did it.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, you go, why not? I mean, it's a perfect state for that to be. So they know it can be done. And so we're looking at it saying, okay, great. We need to start taking steps to this. And kind of proud. I spoke at Oakridge National Laboratory. And it's a real neat place. Neat people, such an area of responsibility that I was, proud to be a honorary speaker at. And so a recent release, this, everything comes out, a week ago.
Yeah, usually.
It's just amazing how fast everything's moving. So you have Oakridge, Stanford, Purdue. And I'm not usually big on universities coming out with something and saying, hey, we got something that works and it works today. Well, guess what? They did it. They used commercially available equipment and they used photons and they made a photon land and it works. And what I always do, with proof of concept, it drives you crazy because there's one little thing that you can't get it out because it's not done yet. And you got to go through standards groups and, you got to do all this stuff. Well, they did it. And it's like, wait a second, this works. And this works today. So if you think about critical infrastructure and you think about different types of things that we really need to have this serious communications in. And I come from the, I believe in microsegmentation. I come from the LAN world. I want to put my arms around it. I want something small and local. I don't want things all over the place. I want to keep cars from crashing. I want to keep the power on. I'm going to do those type of things. Well, this is a perfect environment for this technology to say, hey, let's test it out. The power companies basically built most of the local fiber anyways. So it's just like, hey, let's talk to you guys. Let's start putting this in. We have our adversaries. They're out there.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go. So, I'm excited that no pun here. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. but but there really is.
Technically, there is, right?
Exactly. All the way from beginning to end. Okay, from the how long ago did we take pictures? Hey, our irises, our eyes, it uses photons.
Right.
It's pretty amazing that we can actually not only do this, but do this in a way that it is unhackable. It can't be breached. It's in a true random source that we cannot manipulate it. So, now it's just time to get moving. I don't like to hear what adversaries are doing, but you know what? Sometimes I do, because it's like, oh, we have our sense of urgency. At last, let's move forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. What does get me is how it's usable. Just the ability to use a photon to do such a thing, and for it to seem to be such at our hands already, that the tools that we've shaped currently has that capability just to alter into with little of ease at this point.
That's what I like about it too. Again, I come from the fiber. We were talking 30 years ago.
Yeah.
These technologies have been around a long time. There is a lot of equipment out there.
Yeah, and like you were saying, it's literally built out already, and it would be very easy just to change, the platform over to Photon Concepts as they are getting into anyway. So.
Exactly. And better yet, I believe in layered technologies, okay? Because I've done cutovers and I've done them in encryption. It's scary. You got to take something out and you got to put something in. And I could talk about what I consider the worst breach that ever occurred, but that's when it occurred, when they were actually changing over encryption types. The beauty of this is, hey, we're at a layer 1 level.
Yeah.
So we can actually just put it in.
Yeah, it's that easy. The idea behind it is, it's like a no-brainer almost. It's like it's been sitting there all its time. We just need to use it. So
yeah, and some of it has been sitting there, and I'm kind of close to a lot of these people that are doing different things.
Yeah,
and it's been out there. It needs to get out to kind of all of us. I don't think anybody wants to blow anything up anymore. I think they just want to steal everything.
Yeah, you're right. It's easier that way, right? You can set it home behind the computer and not have to go anywhere and end up in the middle of doing the same thing from another country. So
right, and that
that lazy these days.
Exactly. Yeah, and that nation state stuff is as it's real.
Yes, it is.
And so we need to do something different, and it just so happens we have the infrastructure. It's already out there. Very simple to put in, and something that just would be, unstoppable. So, I've been doing this a long time, and it's not often I get excited about, hey, you know what?
Yeah, a lot of times that's me too. I just don't. When new things come out, there were some of the things about the new link of the technologies behind the hard drive. And I was the concept that and the CPU usage, and the Scottish scientists, they referred to how many CPUs you could put or how many dies you could put on a CPU, and it was up into 1,000 before we actually, the relevantness ends up limiting. And the same thing with the hard drive, and we're getting into concepts where we're putting 30 terabytes on a drive, the capability of one little small drive from what its capacities were back in the 80s. I mean, it's we're going past Moore's law there when we get to the traditional factors, that we're excelling in such a rate too, that quantum computer is going to be today. It's no longer yesterday's news. You're right. It seems to just fly on the technology.
And there's a way of getting there, and that's the biggest thing. When I spoke at Oakridge, I said, look, it's not like we're going to throw away software and hard drives and all this digital equipment. You can't do that. So my excitement is, hey, you know what? I know the migration path. And that could be done little by little, and that could be done while you're running the existing stuff. That's what's cool.
So what was the stage 3 piece of this? Sorry.
Okay. And I didn't hear you said the states.
Yeah, the stage 3. You were mentioning 3 stages. Did we actually went into stage 3? Didn't we?
Yeah. Well, stage 3 is the last part. Is okay, quantum. When you're ready,
Yeah.
I can encrypt you.
Right. That's the concept behind the proton and into the picture concept.
Exactly. So that's what's kind of neat is saying, okay, I can now, with the same technology again.
Yeah.
I can now, because of just the way photons are and the way quantum is. Okay. It's just like, wait, I know you. Yeah. I know what you do. That's what I do. So
Yeah.
I'm a particle. You're a particle. Oh, okay. Connect to my particle right there.
Yeah. That's totally. I can only imagine what this will bring forward for future use as we go forward and get to that threshold of full quantum computing across the board for day-to-day activities, and what that will bring forward. Certainly, something that's needed is new encryption methods. This certainly would apply to that foundation of quantum computing. So it's interesting to hear the concept. We are running out of time, Larry. So, and like I said, we were having some technical difficulties there for a while, but I'm glad we got a chance to chat with you about this and just what it's possible for such a factor. Do you have anything that you'd like to put in for what your anything for your company or anything like that as far as summing this up, summary, and say to the audience?
Right. One of the things I like to bring up. So I advise in this stuff. I mean, you heard what I said. I know this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, and you'll appreciate this with your background. So I sit between the public and the private sector, and it's not a comfortable place to be.
Not always. No.
But you know what? The thing I see, and I really like seeing this, is number one, they're sitting at one table. They used to never do that, and you know that. No, that's all security there. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that's usually.
Yeah, and it's not happening as much as it used to be before. You have PhDs that are still PhDs in universities, and guess what? They have private companies.
Yeah,
and they talk.
I'd be one of those almost.
Yeah, and look, because you want to get it done,
right?
You say, look, I don't want another grant. Maybe I can give you some. I'll give you some revenue shares, or I'll give you some residuals on this. But let's get it out there. And the thing I'm excited about, the thing I facilitate, is that okay, if you want to get this, come to me. I know the people that are doing it. I know the people that have already created companies. I know people that have already tested this, and I know that it's working proof of concept. I'm not going to give you a white paper. I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah, I think that's what most companies really like to see, is that there's an actual, action involved where it's not just something written. Theory actually put to paper, and then paper actually put to some type of action, so you can actually tangibly see something visually. So,
exactly,
yeah.
And that's the thing that I can offer, and that's the thing. Again, the trend that I really like seeing people like yourself who have these, tremendous backgrounds, and saying, yeah, okay, that's great, but let's get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And now's the time. And I like seeing that collaboration, and I appreciate our collaboration today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Larry, for being on. Okay. So that's all we have time for today. Until next time, everybody stay safe. And that concludes our recording for this session of New Cyber Frontier.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.